All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, where there's smoke, there's also fire, as there are potential talks about expansion in Major League Baseball, and they are heating up. Now, currently, there are 30 MLB teams, but how long will it be before we get to 32? It's been 26 years since MLB has expanded, as you got to go back to 1998 when they added the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Tampa Bay Rays. But if Major League Baseball were to expand once again, where should they plant those flags? Now, there's a lot of cities, or several cities rather, that could be on the expansion radar. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them tonight. Portland, Oregon, Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and then Montreal, Canada. And I'm going to throw a couple of other cities out there just to put them in this argument: Oakland, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll touch on all of that in one moment. But it's one of those. I'm going to start with Montreal. And after, 2 decades, is MLB ready to return to Montreal? You think about it, probably up until the mid 90s and their last 10 years or so in Montreal. Of course, the Expos are now the Washington Nationals. But, for the most part, there was a love affair between city and team. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those, it will be nice, but then people would have to come out and support the product. Cole, what's going on? You're saying, truthfully, I love the Montreal Expos to be brought back on the NL side and maybe a Portland, Oregon team on the AL. Well, definitely, I definitely understand where you're coming from. Please, I'm going to say a couple of things in a couple of moments that I want you to chime in on, and because I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. You think about Montreal, and Cole, you probably know this as much as I do. That '94 strike really messed up the Expos. I'm not going to go as far as some people will say, well, since the Expos and Yankees had the best records in baseball that year, they were going to meet in the World Series. Not a guarantee, but they were definitely on the path of getting to the postseason. And unfortunately, Montreal was never able to recover from that. You think about the talent, probably over like the last, I'd want to say 35 years of existence, for the Expos. Just I'm just going to rattle off some names here: Tim Raines, Andre Dawson, Ellis Valentine, okay, Gary Carter, Delino DeShields, Marquise Grissom, Moises Alou, Larry Walker, Pedro Martinez, Vlad Guerrero. So it was a who's who, and that Expos organization always had talent. And then, of course, they moved to Washington to become the Nationals. It would be nice, to get the Expos back there, but I think it would have to be done right. Getting a new stadium. I do think that they would get support from the people there, but it also has to be a commitment from ownership to go out there and put a viable product on the baseball diamond. It could happen. Portland, Oregon, and Cole, you mentioned them, and I'm going to touch on them right now. I think the Pacific Northwest is definitely viable. You put a team in Portland right off the bat, you create a natural rivalry with the Seattle Mariners. And this is, to your point, Cole, as far as putting them in the American League. I know that Portland is a smaller city, compared to other large cities in the United States, but it's one of those I think it's viable and I think it could work. Nashville has quickly shown, and honestly, the state of Tennessee, for that matter, has quickly shown that they can handle professional sports teams. We've seen the Tennessee Titans there now for about 25 years. Of course, the Nashville Predators, and I know it's not in Nashville, but you have the Memphis Grizzlies of the NBA. Salt Lake City, the only out of all of the four major sports leagues. It's only the NBA there with the Utah Jazz, and the Jazz have been in Salt Lake City now for about 40 years, and they are a very viable team. Salt Lake City, I think, is ready for that. And, just for the sake of argument, you could have something right there, almost like the Rocky Mountain Battle, if you will, between a team in Salt Lake City and the Colorado Rockies, of course. So, and then I'm going to throw Oakland and Las Vegas out there because unfortunately, Major League Baseball is continuing to try to force feed the athletics going to Vegas down our throats. You've basically heard from, key people within the city of Vegas. They don't want the A's. You still don't have, a viable plan to show the people there as far as what the stadium's going to look like. And, you got lawsuits coming down the pike as well. Nonetheless, could it be a scenario where, okay, if the A's leave Oakland, would MLB give them an expansion team in Oakland to kind of suffice them? I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there. And then, the city of Las Vegas, I like a lot of other people really feel that they should get an expansion team, more or less taking on the A's. Just let them start from scratch. You did it with the Golden Knights in the National Hockey League. I think it could be done in Major League Baseball as well. And I think you probably would get more support for it than if you're Vegas with the Oakland Athletics as of right now. But in Portland, Salt Lake City, and Nashville, we're talking about three cities that are currently homes to other professional sports teams from other big leagues. So I think these folks there, they've been around the block, with it, and I think they know how to get it done, and it could be viable. But for me, my biggest thing, and Cole, I definitely want you to chime in on this. Okay, if MLB goes to 32 teams, I think there should be some divisional realignment. And it's not the realignment that most people would imagine. For me, I think MLB should take a step back and go back to the way it was for quite some time. And when I say quite some time, for about 25 years, they just had two divisions in each league. You're saying once MLB does expand to 32 teams, what do you think of the idea that they realign the divisions to a north, south, east, and west format like they did in the NFL in 2002? I'm going to take it a step further. I think we should just go back to having American League West, American League East, National League West, National League East. You got two 8-team divisions, okay? And from there, you think about it, the playoffs like have expanded. You've got 6 teams right now from each league. So why not just say, okay, your division winner is automatically in. But from there, just let the other teams, duke it out for the wild card, regardless of what division that they're coming out of. And then on top of that, let's have something very radical where playoff seeding is not based on whether or not you win your division or not. How about it's just based off of your record? Okay, I think that would be, very drastic, as far as changing things. And I mean, with the AL East, you could have naturally, you're going to take everybody that's in the AL East now: Yankees, Jays, Red Sox, Rays, Orioles. But then, how about putting the Tigers back in the American League East, the Cleveland Indians, pardon me, Cleveland Guardians, and then the Chicago White Sox, maybe, and then the West. You'd have everybody that's in that division now, and then unfortunately, you add Minnesota and Kansas City because they're kind of caught up, in that wash, plus a potential expansion team, depending on where you put them. National League side, everybody that's in the East currently, and then you go back to the way it was, bring in the Cubs, the Pirates, and maybe even the St. Louis Cardinals. And then with the West, clearly everybody that's in the West would be there. And then you add possibly the Reds and the Brewers, and maybe an expansion team. For me, it's like this. Another reason why I feel like it should happen like that, probably won't. I don't have a seat at the table on this. But nonetheless, we've seen, too often in recent years, it's typically that division where, what, they don't keep up with, the Joneses, if you will, and 85 or 86 games, gets them a, home field advantage, in the first round at least. I mean, you looked last couple of years in the Central Division on both, the American League and the National League. Well, let's focus on the National League real quick. In the past couple of years, the Dodgers have run roughshod over everybody in the West. Same thing with the Braves in the East. But then you got a Central team that might win like 87 or 88 games. But then you've got wild card teams coming out of the West or coming out of the East that have better records than that Central Division winner. Let's focus on that, for playoff seeding a little bit more. And for me, I would say if you even up the leagues at 16 apiece, you could also cut down on interleague play. I know that, it's 15 and 15. So the interleague series are throughout the year, but now MLB took it a step further, with everybody playing everybody. I personally think they should cut down, okay, on the interleague games. Let's focus on the games with your league more because it's gonna help to decide tiebreakers. I think it's gonna give you better interest coming down the stretch as far as playoff battles, as far as playoff seeding. So I would say, you know what, 90 games with your division if you're just going to go to a two division format for each league. 60 interdivision games. So a National League East team would play 60 games against the National League West. And then you could still have interleague games, but just have 12. And another reason why I bring this up is because I feel like interleague baseball has lost its luster. Okay, interleague came around in 1997. It was a big deal back then to see the Yankees play the Mets in the regular season, to see the Cubs play the White Sox. Okay, to see the Dodgers play the Angels, the A's play the Giants, the Rangers play the Astros. Because in those days, of course, the Astros are still in the National League. Heck, Montreal Expos, who you just brought up, Cole, when they played the Blue Jays. All right, it was a little bit different then. Okay, but I think it's gotten so watered down right now, the effect isn't there. Less is more. Less interleague games, make it more exciting, more fruitful. You commented about the NFL. Yeah, you have, interconference games every year in the National Football League, but you look at Jets Giants, for those in the New York area, it's one of those where they only meet every 4 years in spite of the fact that they share the same venue. And then going around the block, not that often makes those interconference games more, mesmerizing, so to speak. You put it like this: the Steelers and the Cowboys, two of the more marquee franchises in the National Football League. You think about it, Pittsburgh's played Dallas 3 times in the Super Bowl, but whenever these two teams get together every 4 years, it's always must see TV. My point is this: less could be more for Major League Baseball. I don't think that they're going to do it, but in my opinion, that's the way that it should be. So you look at it, and I think if done right, and that's the big if, Rob Manfred and company could come out of this smelling like a rose, and they need to because Rob Manfred right now is looking like the poster boy for futility for so many different reasons. You figure this botched move by the Oakland Athletics to Las Vegas, the Fanatics fiasco with the uniforms. First, it was the names on the back of the New Jerseys. Now it's the pants. And honestly, for me, I'm happy that I have like MLB jerseys like the one you see right over my shoulder here. Before things got out of whack so much with these unis right now, I feel like these are real legit jerseys in comparison to something that you would get from a giveaway day at a minor league stadium, which they're trying to force feed down people's throats right now as far as being authentic jerseys here in 2024. That's not the case. But nonetheless, I think if done right, Major League Baseball could come out of this smelling like a rose. But with the way things have been going lately, I'm not going to hold my breath on this. So, will we see MLB expansion before Rob Manfred retires in 2029? Probably not, but I do feel that the wheels could at least be set in motion. I think first and foremost, Major League Baseball, has to take care of some house cleaning. what's going to come of the athletic situation, whether it be Oakland or Las Vegas. You've also got some other teams that are jockeying and flirting with leaving their respective stadiums right now in respective cities, as you know they're looking to get new stadiums. You hear about the White Sox, although it looks like the White Sox are probably going to get a new stadium in the Windy City. You've heard the stuff from last year about the Milwaukee Brewers. Honestly, I don't think the Brewers are leaving Milwaukee. It's just all about them jockeying to try to get the upgrades that they want at their park and so forth. But nonetheless, I do think the wheels will be set in motion by 2029. Not a guarantee that we're going to see two more teams between now and then. We definitely will see expansion. I think it's going to come. It's just unfortunate for Major League Baseball that they continue to be late to the party. You think about MLB and you think about baseball, and there was a time, when this was America's pastime. But in my opinion, it's been passed by the National Football League as well as the NBA. And you figure the NFL right now, they are a runaway freight train with so many things that they're doing popularity wise, marketing, you name it. Okay. And I don't think MLB gets that back. They're trying to keep up or catch back up with the NFL and the NBA. Easier said than done. And typically, whenever you're trying to catch somebody else that's already done it and been successful at it, it's not as good. So I really want to see how this expansion does play out for Major League Baseball. Best case scenario, I think that they could get some expansion in regions that would create natural rivalries. Like I said, you put a team in Portland, they're naturally going to have a rivalry with a Seattle. You put a team, they've even talked about Sacramento, which I think would be a slap in the face if you put a team in Sacramento and not, something in Oakland. You put a team in Nashville, depending on what division that you're putting them in, that could be a natural rivalry for the Atlanta Braves. You put a team in Charlotte, that could also be a natural rivalry for an Atlanta Braves team. It could also become a rivalry for the Washington Nationals, being in Carolina and DC aren't that far away. Or if you put them in the American League, something with the Baltimore Orioles, a lot could happen there. So it all depends on how Major League Baseball tries to attack this thing. CJ, what's going on there, buddy? It's one of those where maybe they get it right for once, maybe they don't. I'm just not holding my breath. I do believe that we are going to have Major League Baseball expansion. When and where, it remains to be seen. And I'm also interested to see how these divisions are going to be broken down as well. That's always going to be something else that's going to be very tricky. But again, with the way that MLB has botched things so far in the last couple of months between the Oakland A's as well as the Fanatics fiasco with the uniforms, like I said before, I ain't holding my breath on this thing. But nonetheless, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. Cole, as always, I definitely appreciate your support. I definitely appreciate you chiming in, and just keep that the subscribe button on for the alerts. And you'll hear and see my next podcast. CJ, probably maybe over the weekend I'll be talking some more baseball. If I got something between now and then, I will definitely hit you up. But just keep your eyes and ears peeled. And as always, folks, this is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.